Welcome back, and joining us for a look at the day's markets action is Nicholas Pittaway from Sasfin Wealth. Nicholas, thanks so much for your time today. Now, the first day of trade for September, markets kicking off trade mostly mixed on the international front, as we saw with our boards there, the JSE in the red. We are seeing thin trading today as U.S. markets are closed for Labor Day, but a jam-packed week nonetheless, with U.S. jobs numbers being released on Friday. As we get started, just take us through what you've made of trade today and perhaps your reflections on last month, considering that global sell-off we saw then.
Thanks, Tarling. Great to be with you again. Our market's closing down red across the board, as you said. The big thing at the moment is we've got those numbers coming out on Friday, but more importantly is on the 18th of September, we've got the US Federal Reserve making the decision on the interest rates. So they had their meeting in Jackson Hole. And so it's very interesting to see what the outcome is. And we're all expecting a 0.25 or 25 basis point cut. Even bigger than that. I mean, all the markets globally are really quite run by the US. And NVIDIA's earnings call, actually, that came out on Wednesday, the 28th. And just to give you an idea, it wasn't so much about the revenue and, profit margins. It was more about, that earnings call kind of determined the speed and scale at which the entire AI revolution was going to take place. So if I just backdate year to date, the S&P 500, so we've done about, 19%. If I strip out the Magnificent Seven have done just under 40%. Those are your top 7 companies, the Microsofts, Amazons, Apples. The rest have only done 5%. So you've had, this AI revolution is driving things in a big way. And I think it's interesting to see how it all plays out. And that's kind of the space we're in at the moment. Earnings were good, but there's a slight decline on the cards. So it's something to be wary of.
Definitely right on that front when it comes to the tech stocks, mainly driving U.S. markets over there, as you said, 40%, representing about 40% of the upside we've seen on that front. Let's move over to some local company news. It's been a very busy day on the local front. In company news, Bidvest still performing well despite tough economic challenges. The group delivered a near 7% rise in earnings as 5 of its 7 divisions performed well. However, that share price was down the last time I checked. It was down 1.5%. Is this just a reflection of what's been happening or just overall sentiment today, or a reflection of how investors feel about those numbers?
So their results were very much in line with expectations. The HEPS up 6.5%, which exceeded the nominal GDP for the period, of 4.8%. So it does suggest some real growth coming along in South Africa. But there is at the moment, there's been such major sentiment around the new South Africa. We've all got excited about it. But there needs to be a little bit more, almost fundamental, almost tangibles. So I'd say good performance across most of the businesses, considering the depressed economic and global markets. Interest rates have been very high. So, and I think they're disposing of their bank or their financial services business. They made some good acquisitions offshore as well. I think this is a company to look out for. I mean, if there's major success, we've seen them talk about logistics and how they're really getting involved. So a good new South African, reindustrialization, we should actually see them in a very good spot. Move today 2%. They're up 13% year to date. So they're on a good wicket. And I think we just need to see a little bit more coming through for us to really get behind them.
Let's take a look at RCL Foods now. They delivered double-digit growth in earnings. This mainly on the back of higher selling prices due to increasing input costs. Consumer demand, though, still falling as the cost of living bites. You mentioned there when you spoke about Bidvest, those high interest rate levels, as well as the CPI that's also not faring well for the consumer. Nicholas, what have you made of these numbers?
Thanks, darling. It's so funny how the unbundling of that rainbow chicken business, which was so erratic. So you actually saw for the first time, and they're paying a dividend now. So, you know, their EBITDA, they continued operations at 15.5%. So they're on a good wicket despite the challenges. But yeah, removing that, I think they've got far more focus now, and so the group can, you know, elevate. They can leverage off the elevated service levels in the grocery and sugar divisions. Still a tough environment, as you said, but they are in a far better position, in our opinion. Yeah.
So much to chat about, Nicholas, but so little time. I have to take your stock pick now. So what are you hanging your hat on this Monday?
Okay, I'm glad you got to this because this is one that I think you'll like. Not because you need it, just because it's one that's a hell of a interesting, is Novo Nordisk, which is, they're in the diabetics and almost weight loss kind of GLP-1 drug category. So they make the likes of Ozempic and Wegovy. And yeah, so I mean, the stats that come out of it, there's, you know, 1 in 8 adults in the US use a GLP-1 drug like Ozempic. They've used it, when I said use, they've used it at some point in their life. And there's a good retention of using it as well. But the big one here is that 40% of Americans are technically obese based on their BMI levels. So, you know, there's a big culture there with fast food and all of that. And this is such an interesting space because it's one where if medical aids take this on, if you've got these US Americans or individuals around the world who are actually dropping weight, the other benefits you'll get, it's lower heart rates, heart attacks, lower stroke, there's so many other benefits from actually just being leaner, that if medical aids pick up on this and they're willing to almost fund it, I think we're going to be in a very interesting space. And I mean, they've also just launched in China as well. So growing, Novo Nordisk has been around for a very long time, but they are the leaders in this field, and it's an exciting space. So that's it.
Definitely, that weight loss market, really exciting. I have been watching it quite closely. Nicholas, thanks so much for your time and just taking us through the day's markets action. That was Nicholas Pittaway from Sasfin Wealth.